My name is Lisa Neuharth, and I was very blessed to be raised in a Seventh-day Adventist family. I was raised by a father who was adopted, and as we know, we are all born with a hole in our heart that only God can fill. But we've also done foster parenting for many years, and we have discovered that children who grow up without their biological parents have an even greater hole and just a greater hungering for that hole to be filled. And so, as my father was adopted and his hole was never filled, then as he had children, I would say that I had a maybe bigger hole than some other people, again, just trying to figure out how to fill that hole in life. And so throughout my childhood, I had a great childhood, lived out in the country, was extremely well educated, traveled around the world, had music lessons. You can imagine it's just, I had the idealistic life. And yet there was still this hole in my heart, something that was missing, where just at the end of the day, sometimes even as a kid, I would just cry myself to sleep because I felt unloved, even though I had parents who were very loving and sisters who were very loving. So then, as I became a young adult, I rebelled and I went into the world again, just trying to fill this hole in my heart. So I went through the world. I went into drugs, went into dressing very provocatively to try to get men's attention. I ended up married, and I immediately wanted to have children also because I was sure that, if it was a child, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, that would finally fill the hole since nothing else still was. So I did give birth to a son at the age of 22. And I remember holding him and just thinking, wow, this is going to fill that hole. And a couple days later, he stopped breathing in my arms. And I really hit rock bottom at that point because I was a nurse by education. I had a great job, and I was capable of handling everything and taking care of myself. And all of a sudden, when I had the pride and joy of my life laying in my arms, not breathing, I realized for the first time I could not take care of everything that was most valuable to me in life. And so I really just cried out to God, and in the process, things got even worse in my marriage, and he became very abusive. And my son ended up having, he was born missing part of a chromosome. And so we were practically living at Children's Hospital, and he was having surgery after surgery. And so I just kept reaching newer levels of rock bottom. And really, that's when I pulled out my Bible and started reading my Bible and finding God. And so I changed my life and I went back to, again, what I was raised with, family worship, again, left the drugs and everything else behind. I ended up going through a divorce, had another child at the end of our marriage. And so I had two youngsters. I was a single mom, but I just was really seeking the Lord, and He brought a wonderful, godly man into my life. And now I was sure finally, like, this was going to fill the hole. But even a good, godly man didn't fill the hole. And we had another son. And again, I have three excellent sons who I love dearly, but those sons couldn't fill the hole. Again, I was a nurse. There was times when I worked, times that I stayed home. No matter what, nothing could fill the hole, whether I was working or staying at home with my kids. I was very involved with church family, involved in Pathfinders, all these other great church things. None of that filled my hole. Went on international mission trips. That didn't fill my hole. And so here it was. It's like I was having this great life with all these great things, but there was still just this little hole missing. And I guess for me, what that looked like is that, again, many times throughout the day, and especially at the end of the day, as I lay in bed, I just felt unloved, and I felt, um, at times depression would overcome me. There were some times in my life where I was, really struggled with suicidal thoughts. And it's like I knew it didn't make sense. Again, my husband would try to help me and he would say, Lisa, what else do you need? Like, you have everything. Have you stopped and counted your blessings? And I'd be like, yeah, I see all the blessings. Yeah, I'm richly blessed. But inside of me, there is still something missing. And so there's times where I would have great days, but then there's times where I would just be really overcome with grief and sadness. And so we were facing a challenging situation. with a human relationship. And I had a friend who lived by Mark Sandoval and who had talked to him about a similar situation that she had. And she was explaining to me his advice, and I didn't really think his advice was biblical. And so she encouraged me to counsel with him. And so, out of desperation, we had been searching the world and everywhere else for an answer to our dilemma. And we had tried so many different things and nothing was working. So, I counseled with Mark Sandoval, and he explained his perspective on the issue, and he explained why it was biblical in just a few short minutes. And I was astounded. And so we went through with his advice, and then that caused me to go, I've got to read this Law of Life book. What is this book about? Because again, like I've been a good Christian all these years, and I thought I knew how human relationships worked and all these other things worked. And yet he just like turned everything I thought upside down. And so I started reading that book, and the Lord had brought a couple other things into my life within the last year, which was kind of along the same lines of thinking. But Mark Sandoval brought this principle to really a heart level, and really, how does that really change your life on a daily practical level? And so, in that book, probably the biggest thing that changed my life was that everything that I need comes to me from God. And so God has given me everything I need and even more than I need to be happy and filled with joy every single day of the week, no matter what my husband does, my children does, no matter what happens to me in life, I can actually be completely filled and overflowing by Christ every day. And that just blew my mind. And so then as I started to implement it, again, I found that it was just very true. Like probably the my biggest struggle was emotions. And it's like Satan would put these lies into my head of, see that just happened. People don't love you. You're unloved. It's a hopeless life. And I just started reaching out to God instead and saying, okay, Lord, I know that you love me. So I need you to fill me with your love right now. And I need you to take these icky feelings away. And again, I've been a Christian most all of my life, never tried to do such a thing. I wouldn't think that Christ could actually have the power to change my emotions. And I found that within a minute, literally every time, Christ changed my emotions and caused me to feel the peace that passeth all understanding, the love that's truly everlasting. I've shared this with friends, and they have found the exact same thing to be true, that God is truly enough to fill every single one of us. So even when we're slighted and treated poorly by others, we can still be overflowing with Christ, and we can still be full of peace and love and joy. And so that is how his book changed my life. It really connected me to God completely and really showed me the hole that I had been missing in my life all along, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
So, tell the audience why would you recommend this book to them?
I highly recommend Mark Sandoval's Law of Life book because it will fill you with whatever you've been seeking for your whole life, and that is Christ. And whether it's that you need his love, you need his acceptance, you need his forgiveness, you need someone that you can trust for wisdom, whatever it is, Christ is actually a personal God who will come in and will give you everything that you need every moment of the day, all day long for the rest of your life.
Um, hmm. So, as a parent, what would you say this book does for you as a parent versus as a wife? What were some of the things that spoke to you as a wife differently as a parent as you read through the book?
So, as a wife, this book has totally changed my marriage because all of a sudden I'm not looking to my husband to meet all of my needs, and then I don't get into a bad mood, or I don't feel slighted or unloved or my day ruined if things don't go my way. And at first, it was kind of funny. My husband actually like got worried when all of a sudden my life changed upside down, because he noticed that again. It's like I had always been this clingy wife, and all of a sudden I was like, "I'm good, I'm filled," and he's like, "Are you like planning on leaving me or something?" And I'm like, no, like I'm actually more committed to you now than I ever have been in life
Oh,
because now I'm filled with God. And so I can be committed to you. And yet I don't need you. And that's the amazing part is that like I wasn't clinging and needing him anymore. I was able to just give to him. And then the other thing is I was able to talk to him more openly about things because I wasn't worried about his response anymore because I now knew that God was going to take every care of everything. So I didn't need to be afraid of things between my husband and I could just openly talk to him and share with him and trust that God was going to take care of all the results. As a parent, I have older teenage children. I wish I had known this stuff when my kids were little because I wish I could have gone to my little children and said, you know, when their eyes were full of tears with whatever they were struggling with, I wish I could have gone to them and say, you know what? Just talk to Jesus and he'll honestly change your heart, change your emotions, and give you the wisdom and whatever else you need. Whereas again, I taught my kids more of the American lifestyle. You pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you figure it out yourself. And I didn't teach them to literally call on God for everything as a personal God. And so, how it's changing my relationships with them now is that before, I think my kids felt scared to disappoint me because they knew how emotionally fragile I was. And so they knew that I would be overcome with grief and tears. And so there was this border there of we can't tell mom this because then all of a sudden she's going to be too upset and hurt. Whereas now, I think that they're starting to, again, this is a new transformation in my life, but I think they're starting to realize, wow, mom's actually happy day in and day out through Christ, regardless of what we do or anything else happens in the world. And so it gives me the freedom, again, with them to have open and honest conversations and to just love them. And if they disappoint me in the past, again, that would have possibly sent me into tears, depending on how bad the disappointment was. And now it's like, no matter what, I'm still filled with the joy of the Lord. And so we can still have a good relationship no matter what. So, I have been going through some really challenging situations in the last year. And to be honest with you, if I had not found this book, I think I would have probably gone back into the world and committed suicide because of the disappointments that I have been experiencing. And so, this book, I would honestly say, has saved my life. And so, what my friends look at me now is they look at me and they say, okay, how is it that you can be so happy with what you're going through? They look at me like, are you delirious? Are you not aware of what's happening? And so it's such a joy to just be able to tell my friends, I see what's happening. I still feel the pain. Like I'm not totally ignorant, but like the second the pain pricks me, I just say, Dear Jesus, like, please come in and take this pain away and fill me with your heart and fill me of love and fill me with your heart of hope and faith and joy. And He does. And so the trials of this life don't drag me down. I'd say another way that this has changed my life with my friends and other people is evangelistically. Again, before it's like when I was trying to reach someone for Christ, I was trying to explain everything logically. You know, like, let me teach you what you should do and why you should do it from the Bible, which to me sounded great. And I'm not saying that we totally shouldn't do that, but the focus was still like pulling myself up by my bootstraps, but using the Bible words to do it. And now I'm much more like realizing and telling people, I can't give you the wisdom you need. No one else in church or anywhere else can give you the truth and the wisdom that you need. There's only one source, and that is God. And so I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to encourage you. The biggest thing I probably do now for people is I pray for them a whole lot more than I try to convince them of truth. And I just find that again, prayer is way more powerful than a human mind trying to convince another mind. And I also find that again, when people understand this principle that God is with them all day long and there to meet their needs, that they are not going around to friends and other sources in the world trying to fill that hole again and again that just isn't filled. And I had a lot of people before who I would say their support network. It's like they'd be texting me all through the day. I've got this problem, I got that problem, and calling me. And as again, this has changed, I have directed them to, you know, like talk to the Lord about it. He can be the one who fills you. I can't fill you. I can't be there all day long every time you need to give you wisdom. And so again, just to see all of these people transferring their needs to Christ and finding that again, like Christ is meeting their needs, and they're shocked and they call me and they tell me. I just had my sister-in-law call me Friday night and she said, "You won't believe what happened." She goes, "I was overcome with terrible grief." She was again in a really challenging situation that has plagued her entire life of 50 years. And this keeps happening again and again. And she goes, "I was there and I just said, Lord, take over this. Satan, I rebuke you. Lord, fill my heart with love and peace." And she said to me, "You won't believe what happened, Lisa." She goes, "Within 30 seconds, I was truly filled with joy and love. And for the first time in my life, I had victory over this issue in my life." And so, again, like I'm just finding it's transforming everyone that I know. And again, like I tell you, I'm very excited about what you're doing. And again, this Law of Life book has changed my life drastically. And I think it's only been 2 months. So 8 weeks, this is what the Lord's done. And so I just am excited about it. So anything I can do to like help you, whether it's in person or anywhere else or any way else to promote this, it's changed my life. It literally saved my life.
Well, see, you just added a major point there, which I should have asked you. I didn't even think. How long has it been since you started reading this book? It's been 2 months.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.